Hello, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Hello.
Hello. Looks like we're all streaming. All right. God, it's always nervous when I load up Skype.
Hello, mate. You're right.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm okay, thanks. It's been a funny day today.
Yeah, release of the new album today, hasn't it?
I know, yeah.
And has it been
It's
going well?
it has. I was bricking it, mate. I tell you, because the Me album,
Mm-hmm.
which was out. That was what I don't know, summer last year. And it was something that I put heart and soul into, and it was a very very emotional album. There was Ben dying, and there was stuff at work and all sorts of things, and then it flopped because I'm absolutely terrible at marketing. I'm awful at it, and I'm also terrible at social networking. So when you post a piece of music up, and you've got 16, 1700 followers, and you get a like if you're lucky, no matter how old you are and how many times you tell your kids it's not about the likes and all that sort of stuff, it sort of is. Um, and I was getting into that whole thing of, oh God, nobody likes me. My music's rubbish. I better not carry on anymore because nobody likes what I do. And then the album's just, my phone just keeps making these noises when people buy it. It's like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we're all against that struggle as well. God damn, I know I relate to everything you've just said there. I know how difficult it is to try and get things pushed online, and yeah, the disappointment when you just get the one or two likes trickle in.
It's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, it's like, oh, there we go. See, the phone's just made another noise. It's like, well, hey. um, I mean, it's always been sort of like the hobby, and so it's never mattered so much. But of course, it's not the hobby now. Um, I mean, obviously, the sort of like releasing albums isn't my primary job. Although, to be honest, I wish it was, but it's not. But it is much more important now that when I kind of disappear into my cave, um, and I have to turn around and say, well, I'm doing it for a reason. It is going to pull in a little bit of cash, and hopefully it'll pull in my 0.0001% from YouTube and Spotify and all that. But it is more important now that things do well, rather than not at all, if that makes sense.
And hopefully the music will at least speak for itself a little bit over time because it is awesome, awesome stuff. And Me was great stuff as well. And you mentioned that it's a really completely different album because that had stuff that you'd been working on for F1 and all sorts of different synthscapes and that kind of thing. But this is balls to the wall chiptune. So
Yep,
if you talk a little bit about the concept behind this album and the kind of thing that ties these tracks together for Retrospect.
yep. Well, in some way, the concept that ties it together is laziness. um, because every tune that's on the album has been released before, um, being given away to various compilations or one of the tracks, Space Daragungle, I wrote. That's the most recent track that I wrote. I wrote that as a demo song for a new Commodore 64 sound chip emulator. And the thing, a lot of the stuff had gone on Chiptunes Win, and of course Chiptunes Win's shut down, and so my tunes have gone. I mean, I still got a copy of them, but nobody else can kind of go onto Bandcamp and download them or anything. And since I released all those tunes, because I'm doing it more, my mixes are getting better. I'm now in a properly acoustic studio. I've got I've got 7 grand's worth of speakers that I'm using, which kind of make up for the fact that I'm terrible at mixing. Um, and so the tunes, although some people will have heard them before, they're now a lot more. The quality's a lot better, and they kind of it's much more of a coherent set of tunes now, rather than something that I wrote in 2013 and then something that was 2016 and blah blah. It's all kind of they work well together, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I mean, a couple of the tracks. Sorry, I, I get so excited when I talk, I forget to breathe.
I think my regular listeners know that's something I get afflicted by myself. So don't worry about that.
So a couple of the tracks were originally written on synth back in in the mid-90s. And in fact, the Space Darragungle one is one of those. I wrote it in 1996 on the well, it would have been on with probably would have been Apple Cubase, I suppose, back then, and a Kurzweil synthesizer and stuff like that. And I never ever released it because I never released any sort of music back then. And then I thought about releasing an updated synth version, and it just wasn't working. There was just something that was wrong. And then I just kind of thought, I've got to do this demo tune and I've got to do it quickly. So therefore, it would be better to do something that I've already written. So it's more about me rearranging the track. And I looked at that one and thought, actually, I think I could turn that into a chippy. And yeah, and it turned out good. Sorry.
And there's stuff on this album that goes back even further than that as well, isn't there? Right, like Main Theme 2, right? Isn't that like one of your original pieces of music, like when you were very first as a teenager playing with this stuff?
That's very true, actually. Yes, Main Theme 2 would have been written in 1992. I think, or it might be 91. I'll have to check now. And as somebody's just pointed out to me, because I actually used I put the Amiga version on the CD as well, and but I kind of cheated. I used the old school plugin for Winamp, and one of the notes is out of tune, and the Amiga plays it back completely properly. But yes, that was kind of going back then. But it's one of the. There was that one, and there was the Tetris intro that I think was I became most famous for. A Main Theme I never did for Reawakening because I just couldn't get it to work. I've got about 7 different versions of Main Theme 2 as a synth track, as a chip tune, and I ended up trying to turn it into like a force of the floor dance monster, and just nothing worked. And then again, it was like, right, okay, I've got this album. I could do with another couple of tracks. I really, really, really would like to have Main Theme on it because I think there will be people of sort of like my age who will remember that. I know there will be because people talk to me about the original version now. So it's kind of like it's got to be on the album because that'll get more interest. So yeah. I mean, yeah, 1992.
And I'm glad you mentioned Reawakening as well, because that's another previous album of yours, and the two of these are kind of in a strange way connected. I mean, they both have very similar covers. I think Retrospect, this latest one's the left eye, right? And Reawakening was the right eye.
Yes, because I'm so lazy.
Because I was going to ask if there was any deeper connection than that.
Not only that, but I'm so tight. I didn't pay anybody to do an album cover for me. But no, it was quite apparent because it's been such a long time since Reawakening. And I knew what the album was going to be, and I knew what it was going to be called, and I knew what it was going to be about, but I didn't know what the cover was going to look like. And then it just did come to me. It's like, well, I've done one album with one eye. Let's just do an album with the other eye. And keep sort of like, I mean, unfortunately, now that I've got the Retrospect back from the distributor, the eyes aren't the same size.
Right.
So you've got to kind of hold one further away to kind of get them into perspective.
It's kind of like Tom York, maybe.
Yeah. Well, we've got an idea. We've got an idea of a bit of like a social media fund to have with with people who buy the CD. As long as the email address that they use for their payment accepts emails, because some people have a specific PayPal email that they don't actually check.
Yeah, of course.
But either that, or I'm going to put a little note in every CD that goes out, and so far 30 CDs have gone today. And there's a little idea that I want to do, because again, I'm terrible at the whole promoting and the social media. And my partner Heidi, she said, "Well, what about this for an idea?" And it's like, yeah, that's a really good idea. So yeah, we're going to use the eye as a sort of like a way of kind of continuing to try and get a bit of promotion going, I think.
Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing that unfold. And we've had a fairly interesting question in the chat actually from Shady, who's asked if you ever went to university, and if so, which course. And I think he's trying to find out how much like musical education might have played in your early days.
Oh right, yeah. Because I'm not. I'm actually gone into the dining room now because the kids are watching television, so I'm not at a PC, so I can't see any of the questions. Um, I wanted to go to university. So I wanted to do music technology, but unfortunately, this would have been back in 1991, and there were only two courses in the country. There was the Tonmeister course at Surrey University, which wanted A grades at maths, music, and physics, which the music one would have been attainable if I could be bothered, but there was no way I'd get A level maths or physics. And then there was another degree at Salford University, so that's the one that I applied for. And I took my well, not electric violin. I borrowed a pickup from the local music shop and some guitar effect pedals, and went up there. And because an audition part to the whole, there was an audition and then there was an exam, um, and I did all of that, or I tried to, because they wouldn't actually allow me to perform on the violin to start off with, because it wasn't an electric instrument. And I tried to explain, well, I can't get an electric violin, so the best I could do is pick up some that. But they weren't that bothered by it. And they turned around to me and said that they didn't feel that a classically trained musician would be able to deal with music technology. So
That's
they turned me
ridiculous.
down. Yeah, well, they turned me down, and but then about 3 or 4 weeks later, they offered me a place on their HND course instead of the Bachelor of Arts, and of course I told them where they could stick it. Um, so yeah, I mean, actually, I was filling in my application to do management training at Sainsbury's when Mindscape phoned up asking if I would be up for doing Wing Commander,
Right.
and then that was it. I did Wing Commander for them, and then they offered me a job, and that's kind of been the career path since then. You know.
And we've talked a fair bit on still interviews that I admit it's been a while, still yet to come, about your recording process for those early days. We've got quite a lot on Wing Commander actually. But since Reawakening and Retrospect, I think you have been working with chip sounds again for the first time since those days. So, what kind of is your process today? How do you compose your chip tune these days?
Well, I'm afraid a lot of people will, look down in anger at me now because it's more fake bit than original kind of hardware stuff now. Although I try as hard as I can to make things as authentic, and because I know the process of writing a piece of music on, say, a four-channel Commodore Amiga, I use the same practices for some of the tunes that I write, but I'm doing everything in Cubase on PC. So, I mean, I could have, 250 tracks of chip if I wanted to. But some of the tracks, like, for example, the first track on the album, Sid Monkey, that is four channels. And it's meticulously four channels. I've recorded it. I've then gone through it as WAV files and made sure that there's only four channels of sound. And I made sure that no instruments overhang and stuff like that. But just because my time is much more limited and the space is more limited, and I guess when it comes to tracking, I'm a bit of a purist. I'm trying to track on a PC using the clone of Pro Tracker, which is an awesome piece of software, but it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't. The feel of the keys, and because a lot of when you're tracking, you get into a rhythmic mode where you're almost tap dancing with the buttons. You're not even looking at the keyboard. Your hands, a bit like touch typing.
Right.
But I suppose when you've done that on a Commodore Amiga keyboard for so long, whenever you try and do it on anything else, it just doesn't feel right. And that might sound a bit weird, or people might say, "Yeah, I know exactly what you mean." And because I've got nowhere to set up my Amiga 1200, it's just purely quicker and whatever for me to boot up Cubase, do something for half an hour, and then go on to other stuff. However, I am tracking a new Amiga game called Turbo Tomato.
All right.
um, and I've started off on the PC, and I think I'm gonna suggest to my son that he might like to learn how to use Tracker on the Amiga, and then I can set it up in his bedroom, and then when he's not here, I can sit in there and do it. I don't know.
So, from the title, I assume that's going to be like quite playful kind of music.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be again because it's not something that's like I'm not going to make my fortune from it, shall we say. So anything that I can do to make things quicker, I'm going to do for it. So, for example, at the moment I'm using the sample set that I used for the title tune for Out to Lunch on
Right.
the Amiga, which I did on the Amiga back in sort of, I don't know, was it about 93, 94, something like that. So the sample set is the same. So I don't have to worry about trying to find sounds. I'm just going to use those, and then I might, if I need something specific, then I'll add to it. But just to kind of get it done as quickly as possible, and that's going to sound quite awful. But then on the flip side again, when you're now kind of self-employed, time is money. So I want to do it, and I do all these little things that I want to do that I know aren't going to, they're not necessarily going to put food on the table, but I want to do them, and that's part of why I've gone freelance, is to give me the opportunity to do that. But I can't be spending weeks and weeks and weeks on it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So the last thing I wanted to bring up today is, of course, we've got this big listening party tomorrow on Geek Beat Radio.
Yeah.
Because we've already had the album released today, but it seems like a few
know.
people are going to be getting together and listening to it tomorrow. I'll be there, hopefully. So,
awesome.
Where can people join in on this without being invited? And
I have absolutely no idea, because I'm not sitting in front of a computer. Hang on a minute. The invite is on Facebook. Hang on a sec. I should be prepared.
That's okay. I presume they'll be doing some kind of live stream thing, just like I do. So
yes,
probably with the chat and everything like that. I would hope. Anyway.
Exactly. He's told me. Rob's told me to expect it to last around about an hour and a half. So considering the album is without there's 3 tracks at the end of the album which are synth tracks, which are the original versions of 2 tracks and the Amiga track. They're original versions of the chiptune versions. So if you take those away, there's about 38 minutes worth of music on there. So he's expecting it to be about an hour and a half with the chatting in between as well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be, depending on where you are in the world, it's 2:00 Eastern Standard Time, and it's 7:00 UTC, which is where we are at the moment in the UK. So I suppose it's 8:00 in 8:00, 9:00 Europe. And it's at geekbeatradio.com is where it's going to be held. I think there's also something called tunein.com where they've got a radio station. But I'd say the best thing is to go to Geek Beat Radio. Or I tell you what, as I'm at the computer now, why don't I just... Oh, that looks awful. Hang on. Let me do it individually.
Funny you should mention TuneIn, because I've got that app actually.
So, have you?
Yeah.
Okay, I must admit I've not heard of it before. And there's a Discord channel as well, which maybe there's going to be some chatter there. I don't know, because it's been such a long time. I mean, I did a listening party and that's why I'm using Geekbeat, because my listening party for Reawakening, I think, if I remember right, was on Geekbeat as well in 2012. Right. And I was thinking, whoa, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I do? So I got in touch with them and said, "Hey, do you fancy doing one again?" And they said, "Yep, that'd be great." And we'll do it Wednesday night. So that it starts when the album comes out. And it's like, well, I'm in Europe, or I am in Europe until January, and it's going to be a little bit too late. So then they changed it to Saturday, and it was going to be 11:00 at night over here. And then I think he's got to do something to do with work, so the time has come kind of forwards a bit. But no, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I will try not to talk too much, but hey, or at least I'll try and breathe whilst I'm talking.
No, this sounds good, and I'll be there as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll see if we can get some of my guys over there as well.
That would be fab. I mean, 'cause there's not going to be loads and loads and loads of people there, but it'd be nice if a few people turn up. But yeah, it's a shame it's not on release day, but it just didn't work out this time round.
Oh no, it'll be fun either way, man. And thank you once again for coming on the show.
That's right, mate. Thanks for giving us a call and let me pimp myself to the masses.
We've still got plenty of interview footage to come, and obviously I'll be in touch about that over the way.
Awesome, mate.
I never planned for a pandemic along the way, Christ.
Well, actually, I think Jamie's also got an interview that needs to be released with me, and I think that interview lasts about how long this lockdown's going to be.
And you weren't the only one either. God, the amount of interview footage I've got to get through, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
There's no rush, is there?
No. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for that, and I guess I'll hear from you again tomorrow during the listening party.
Yes, mate. Yes, but of course, if anyone wants to buy the album now, they're welcome to.
Yes, do go right ahead. marktdknights.bandcamp.com, right?
That's the one.
Correct. All right, bye for now, Mark, and have yourself a good night.
Cheers, Lee, and you, mate. Bye, everyone.
Good night, man.
See you.